Think about it. When the rules, international rules and regulations that govern and that supports initially little things here and there. But if it's a big element like a shooting war, then you got to go back and just
you got some serious
supplemental.
It's really hard to watch something let's make space available when we have our
How do we want to manage this?
You have seen me walking around the last couple of days. I'm Tony Mcdonald. I'm the director of the Urban Coast Institute at Monmouth University, and I'm extremely pleased to be a co-host and a co-organizer and supporter with many others of the National Ocean Exploration Forum. And I really need to thank our hosts, Jesse and Rockefeller University, for a fantastic hosting, and thank you very much, Jesse, and to Rockefeller for hosting us for this. So this is actually bringing to New York and Rockefeller something that we have been doing at Monmouth University since 2005. So we have been giving a national and regional ocean champion awards since the inception of the Urban Coast Institute in 2005. So this is an opportunity to acknowledge somebody in the ocean exploration community, and you'll hear more about other honorees as well during the presentation today. So we're really happy that we have the opportunity, in conjunction with this forum, to present this award. But to start us off on that, I'd like to invite up Paul Brown. He is the president of Monmouth University, to give us some remarks and set us off on the program. Thanks.
Thanks, Tony. Boy, is this a good-looking crowd. Good-looking crowd. Good afternoon. It is such a pleasure to be with you today in the culmination of the 2016 National Ocean Exploration Forum and this luncheon and the presentation of the 2016 Urban Coast Institute Oceans Champion Award. Before I go on, let me just make sure everybody realizes I'm going to use UCI from now on. It's a wonderful acronym. This forum actually is the first series of the marine science and policy conferences that are being hosted jointly by Rockefeller University and Monmouth University. It's jointly being hosted by Rockefeller University's Program for Human Environment and the Monmouth University UCI. It's the first of many, many to come. Even though we are on RockU's campus, there are so many friends and previous UCI national and regional ocean champions here today that I will tell you that I personally feel right at home here. So it's great. A special thank you, as Tony said, to Rockefeller University for hosting us in these incredibly wonderful facilities. This is the home of many past and future Nobel Prize winners. Thank you very much for the hosting. Before I recognize some of the special guests, previous champions of the Ocean Awards recipients, and today's honoree, Dr. Bob Ballard, I really do have to recognize a special friend of Monmouth University, and that's Paul Gaffney, President Emeritus Paul Gaffney. Where is Paul? Us presidents really like that first name, Paul. We really go for that. And his work with Jesse to organize this forum and the many years of leadership, that is just very, very special. I'm going to make Paul blush, hopefully. It is absolutely no exaggeration to say that we are here today to celebrate the academic partnership between Monmouth and Rockefeller Universities. That would not happen without Paul's work. As president of Monmouth University, he established the UCI as one of the centers of distinction. We have several centers of distinction. He established the UCI as one of them, and to advance the mission of the Institute as an Ocean Fellow policy. That is very important to us. Over the last decade, UCI Decade Plus has become increasingly visible, valuable research center for policy, while expanding hands-on research opportunities for our students and our faculty and our staff. I continue to recognize the leadership importance for all of this, and I'll let Paul off the hook now by just saying one more time, thank you. Thank you very much. The Champion of the Ocean Award, which we're presenting today, was established in 2005 to honor individuals who have demonstrated sustained leadership in keeping our coasts and our oceans clean. Very simple thoughts for the non-academics in this field. Keep the oceans clean, safe, sustainably managed, and preserved for the benefit and enjoyment of so many generations to come. To me, in one sense, it's no more complicated than that. One of our distinguished ocean champions, who is a who's who in leading voices in oceanography, marine science, and policy, and of course, we look forward to recognizing him today. But it's also really special to recognize some of the others that have already received awards through our efforts. Ken Pringle, Chair of the UCI Advisory Council. Thank you very much, Ken. Dr. Shirley Paponi of the Harbor Branch Oceanography Institute of Florida Atlantic University. Thank you. Good seeing you. Good seeing you. Dr. Jerry Schubel of the Aquarium of the Pacific. Jerry, where's Jerry? Thank you, Jerry. And then last year's recipient, Terry Garcia, formerly of the National Geographic Society. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Terry. I did say to Terry, was it just a year ago that we were together on a beautiful campus in Monmouth County? Was that a promotion for Monmouth University? It's very smooth. Monmouth University, one of the best. No, I won't go there. And then, of course, the director of the program for the human environment at Rockefeller University, our great partner in this series, Professor Jesse Ossobel. Thank you. Thank you. Jesse, thank you. You are a special friend to us, special friend to me personally, but to us. Former University Board of Chair, Bob Sculthorpe, very much supportive of UCI. Our UCI Advisory Committee Chair, Tavat Nigerian. Where's Tavat? Please, thank you. Thank you. Tavat was so instrumental to the early stages of UCI and its remarkable success. I like to always see Tavat smile, and then he smiles even more when he thinks about the UCI. I know that. That is really nice. Before I turn the podium over to Tony, back to Tony, I would like to make just one observation about today's honoree. There's many others that can be made. You all know Dr. Ballard is a world-renowned oceanographer and explorer. I know you all know that. You know that he has transformed our understanding of the ocean and led to new advances in the mapping of the ocean floor, and so much more. I could recite his accomplishments, but we'd be here through the conference into tomorrow, and I know many of us have things on our agenda for tomorrow. But I would also note that Dr. Ballard is a member of the class of 2004 at Monmouth University. I will continue because this is my shameless Monmouth University promotion. By virtue of the honorary degree that Bob received, honorary science, was presented to him in our commencement ceremony in 2004, he is a member and a graduate of Monmouth University. It's always wonderful to celebrate the accomplishments of our alumni. We have many alumni that have been successful. Bob meets the category. So we take full credit, and we appreciate everything that he has done for us, and that he will continue to do for us. No, I'll stop. So with that, I want to really do one more thought and offer one more thought. Tony Mcdonald. Tony Mcdonald is the director of the Urban Coast Institute, and he has worked with the Institute and the partnership at Rockefeller University and the outstanding teams to make all this happen. Everybody matters. You're always careful what you say because you're afraid you'll put somebody in a different camp. But Tony, you're my cat's meow. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. And I know really what a lot of you in the room are thinking is like, how come I'm not an ocean champion? Well, the point is you all can inspire that. If we achieve the objectives of this workshop, so we have our goals, we have our 5-year goals and our 20-year goals. My guess is that many other people in this room will end up as ocean champions at Monmouth University as well. So we really thank you very much. And I'm really not kidding, because the talent in this room is really pretty extraordinary, building out from folks we've already acknowledged. So again, thank you very much. You know, one thing about these events is there's a lot of thank yous, and you have to do that, and I will do a little bit of that. But I have an idea for the next Ocean Exploration Forum, is really thanking and celebrating all of the successes between now and next year. All the discoveries. We had a wonderful press release that listed some of them. So I really think, in addition to thanking sponsors and partners and things, let's next year really think about celebrating all the individual accomplishments that folks in this room and other folks will have, and we really need to make a better record of that. So really, I think we started that this year with some of the press release, but let's really think about celebrating all of the successes that each of us in this room have, and thanking everybody for what they do, because this is really the Lord's work. So again, just a little bit, so thank you. So I do have a few thank yous, but again, in addition to Rockefeller University and Jesse, again, specifically for this luncheon, I do want to thank Paul and Linda Gaffney and the Ocean Exploration Trust for supporting this luncheon, so thank you very much. I also want to thank the staff. Again, they've been thanked before, but you cannot say enough that Doris and Alan and Danica and Carl from Monmouth and Rockefeller really are the ones that made all of these pieces fit together, and thank you for the staff here serving this wonderful food and helping us here. I also want to shout out a little bit for the 4 students from Monmouth, who hopefully many of you have met, for Kylie, Kayla, Maria, and Taylor. Because that's really why we're here. Let's remember that there's a few, in addition to myself, gray hairs, but there is an incredible next generation of ocean explorers coming up. And I really think the award for Bob Ballard pivots a little bit to that discussion. So I'll change a little bit to that, but thank you very much for those students to come. So one thing that Jesse and Paul have stressed as we were preparing this is really the importance of building the community around ocean exploration. And I really think that's something that I'm feeling in this room and that I've seen over the last 2 days. But I think that's really something that Bob Ballard has really been extraordinary about. He was the community before there was a community. And he'll be here tomorrow to be the community. So I really think, to me, one of the takeaways from the last 2 days was thinking not only about the things we need to do, but the people and the places that make up our community of the ocean exploration community. So I really want to think about that as I think about why we're honoring Bob today. So discoveries are obviously important, but people are important too. And really thinking a little bit about how each of us has had an experience either with Bob, and my guess is many of you had more experience with Bob. So everybody in this room probably has a story to tell about Bob has advanced their career, how he's maybe challenged them to think differently about an issue, that he's somehow been in this space that we're all in. So everybody think of those stories, and now let's think about multiplying on them in the coming years. But really, Bob has, I think, been a catalyst for a lot of this action. President Brown mentioned that Monmouth is doing its small part to build the community by giving these awards. That's one of the things that we do. And it's wonderful to see some of the past awardees here that have been acknowledged, but I also want to acknowledge some of those that aren't here, that really started this. Our first award in 2005, one of the awardees was Admiral James Watkins. And we really can't talk about ocean exploration without thinking about all he has done and all he did for this. So that was our first awardee. We didn't set out to give these awards to ocean exploration folks. You guys keep doing good stuff, so we have no choice but to give awards to folks like you. So in addition to you, we have given awards to Jean-Michel Cousteau, to Admiral Watkins, to Sylvia Earle. 2 years ago, we also gave an award to Kathy Sullivan, so a lot of folks here know what she has done, and also to Wendy Schmidt. So again, we didn't really set out to this, but it's really a testament to the work that you're doing, that the people that rise to the surface are the ones that are doing this extraordinary work that you and many others are doing. But really, to our honoree, no one has been more important to building the ocean exploration community, embodying the ocean story. If folks read Jerry's paper, the first name that comes up when you put Ocean Explorer in is Bob Ballard. So nobody has done more to really support this and to really embody the ocean community. But it's expanded considerably as a result of his efforts, I think, to a large extent. I really want to focus again on the aspect that I have seen in his work when I've looked at it, is how he is always thinking about not only the research, but also the talent, the next generation, the students, the communications about what he's doing, telling the story about what our ocean exploration is. He's a full product. We've been talking about this in the workshop, but everything he's doing from what I've seen in his workshop is me thinking about that entirely in every aspect of his work. And that's, I think, for me, I don't understand the science. So for me, the takeaway is really to be thinking about that comprehensive way, to really thinking about ocean exploration in a way that really builds on discovery, to inspire people, to attract investment, to really think about what the next discovery might be. So as a result of Bob's, and I think the challenge for this group right now is to really go out and explore the remaining 90%. So Bob has done this only exploring 5% of the ocean. Imagine if we go out and explore the other 95% of the ocean, what we could do. So really one of my takeaways from this workshop as well is we're at a pivot point. We're at a pivot point, I think, with a generation of oceanographers. I think we're at a pivot point with technology. I think we're at a pivot point with data and information management. I think we're at a pivot point in so many ways, and that is an opportunity. And amazingly, Bob is already set up to take advantage of that pivot point and really think about where we go next. So I hope you will all join me in really thanking very much Bob Ballard for bringing us to this point, and also look forward to where he's going to take us in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Beautifully done. Now I'm gonna do a lousy job. I mean, like I say, I think I'm ready to just take questions. I also want to thank Paul and Jesse. And Jesse, where are you? What class? You know, Jesse has been on the Nautilus. And how many people in the room have been on the Nautilus? Look around, folks. How many of you have had a meeting on the Nautilus? Well, Jesse remembers we have a very nice wine cellar on the Nautilus. And he knows that my favorite wine is Rombauer. What a class act to be serving it today. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. All right, I got 12 minutes, I think. I averaged 10 and 15, 12 and a half, okay. 57 years, yes, I'm an old fart. I'm 74 years old, and I began my first expedition on a script ship in the summer of 1959, and I was rescued by the Coast Guard. It was really cool. We got hit by a rogue wave, and we almost sank, and I just thought that was cool, because only a 17-year-old would think that. So, 150 expeditions later, a few observations, and here they go. All right, if you look at the expeditions that I did that caught the scientific world's attention, the ones that really homed in on what we're all about as an oceanographer, clearly it was Project Famous, the first human exploration of the mid-ocean ridge, the largest feature on our planet, covers 23% of the Earth's surface. Followed 2 years later by Project Rita, when we finally went to a fast-spreading center in the Pacific Ocean with French. FAMOUS stood for French-American Mid-Ocean Undersea Study. Confirmation of plate tectonics, the realization that Bruce Heason didn't quite have his chart right, that it's not the ridge in the Pacific, it's the rise of the spreading rates are so fast. The discovery of black smokers in 1979, at 21 degrees north, when we finally explained the chemistry of the world's oceans. The realization that the entire volume of the Earth goes inside planet Earth and comes out every 2 to 3 million years total circulation. And we finally did the mass balance calculations. My undergraduate degree was not only in geology, but chemistry. And so it was really nice to finally get those equations to balance. And also the discovery, as a side note, polymetallic sulfides, which are now clearly going to be in the game and clearly challenging. But polymetallic sulfides, because not only are black smokers along the entire length of the mid-ocean ridge for 70,000 kilometers, all of the oceanic crust originated there. So 72% of the planet has rich deposits of polymetallic sulfides, which is copper, lead, silver, zinc, and gold in commercial concentration. Wrap your head around that. I thought that was pretty cool, but then we also discovered another thing on the way to the office. the discovery of the first hydrothermal vents in 1977. I was co-chief scientist with Dick von Hertzen when we stumbled over. We went there looking for a delta T, trying to understand why the very axis of the mid-ocean ridge had a temperature deficit. And we discovered why, because of the vents. But then we discovered the byproduct of that. We had no clue in our mind that we would encounter this dense concentration of biomass that was 8 times the concentration of the sunlit layer 8,000 feet above us. And these were really crazy critters, and then the discovery of the origin of life on our planet. I go to lectures, kids want to hear about the Titanic. I have 2 slides on the Titanic, and then I tell them about the origin of life on them. I said, which eclipsed the Titanic? And they all agree that really smoked Titanic, okay? But there also are the expeditions I conducted primarily with the National Geographic Society. I've been an explorer in residence, which I think is an oxymoron. It should be explorer at large. But I've been with the National Geographic for 30-some-odd years. In fact, I married the National Geographic Society. My wife is a television producer there. And what were the expeditions that caught the public's attention, which is critical? Yes, clearly, the discovery of the Titanic, not only the discovery of the ship itself, but penetrating inside the Titanic and realizing that it's an undersea museum, that there's more history. I'm watching Jim over there. There's my comrade in arms. There's more history in the deep sea than all of the museums of the world combined. Estimates of 3 million shipwrecks. 3 million shipwrecks. And I've worked on a lot of them. The Britannic, the sister ship of the Titanic, sank during the Battle of Gallipoli. The mystery of the Lusitania, what was that secondary explosion that caused her to go down when the Germans only fired 1 torpedo? Bismarck. Actually, Bismarck was a hell of a lot harder to find than the Titanic because they didn't write latitude and longitude as they maneuvered. They wrote down range and bearing. And the search area for that was much larger than the Titanic. And coming in on the first thing I saw on the Bismarck was a barrel coming at me. And I realized, get up, you're about to hit this damn ship. But anyway, going after PT-109, there's a needle in a haystack. That was a tough one. Guadalcanal, my God, we've just scratched the surface there. In Iron Bottom Sound, we found, 12 out of over 50 ships that there's a few missing, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Yorktown, that was tough. That was 18,000 feet of water, and would you believe it, that my first search line over it, I went over the top of it, and it was in my nadir. And I didn't realize on my first line, I'd gone over the top of the damn thing. And it wasn't until 2 weeks later I went, I wonder if it was in my nadir. And I went back and there the son of a bitch was. But anyway, you're going to edit that, aren't you? Okay. And then what were the expeditions that caught the attention of the archaeological world? Clearly our works in the Mediterranean. We went and began mapping the deep water trade routes that the archaeological community thought they hugged the shoreline, and they said those guys were businessmen and they went on straight lines. And then working with great teams of archaeologists to actually recover these pieces of antiquity. And they're the only ones that should be recovering those, and I'm actually anti-recovery. But if I'm gun put to my head, I'd rather leave them down there where I found them. But then the Black Sea. That is nirvana. We have just scratched the surface there. The Black Sea has the largest reservoir of hydrogen sulfide on the planet. And it's a perfectly preserving environment. We have found perfectly preserved shipwrecks, perfectly preserved amphora, and the real home run was when we found a classical ship from 500 BC that still had human remains with its DNA. Just think, I like to tell young people that their generation are the true generation of explorers. We will be a footnote to exploration in 100 years. It's the kids in middle school that will explore more of Earth than all previous generations combined. Buckle up. So how many of these historic expeditions took place in America's EEZ, which represents less than 3% of our planet? None. It's like limiting NASA to exploring in the airspace above America. Why are those sons of bitches allowed to go anywhere in the universe? We need, Think about this. 95% of the ocean's volume is in the high seas in nobody's EEZ. 95% of the space. We really need, so what do I recommend in fact, what do I plan to do until people shoot me? Work to bring other stakeholders in the game that are free to explore anywhere. NOAA's done a fantastic job. Alan Leonardi has done a fantastic job of mobilizing the federal government, not only within NOAA, but within other agencies as you saw today, to explore our EEZ. It's mandatory that we explore our EEZ. In fact, it's in our language that we will explore. I was helped write it in the President's panel and in the Ocean Commission. It's mandatory, but it says primarily, not only. So it's important that we explore our own country. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But we need to also unbridle us, and we need to bring other stakeholders into the game. Falcor's doing them. I'm jealous. Do you think I could talk to Wendy and maybe we could work something? Alucia's entered. NSF, hopefully. Right, Alan? Hopefully NSF enters the game if Congress does what we hope they will do. And the Navy and the private sector. We need to unleash explorers and give them free rein. Go mobile. There's no doubt about it that we need to develop mobile systems that can take advantage of the amazing amount of mud boats that are totally unemployed. The oil industry offshore has not got a big growth curve. And there are mud boat after mud boat after mud boat that are now being almost, Larry, what'd you pay? What was the day rate, Larry? Where are you? Cheap. No, okay. Cheap, right? Larry was using mud boats off of Guam that we couldn't even compete with the Nautilus because they have no work. Mobilize those platforms. Now that may go away in a while, but not right away. The offshore oil industry is not going to bounce back anytime soon. So there's an opportunity for our community to take advantage of those platforms. Don't swing the pendulum too far to totally autonomous boats. Send students, send teachers, send community elders, as we call my advisory board, the old farts, and lawmakers to see, and quite honestly, this is sort of a little jab. Make sure that you minimize the number of scientists trying to get tenure because they are so self-focused. And what we have to do is a community-focused project. So I'm sort of a barb here. And what's really wonderful about students and teachers and the elders, they don't cost much, right, Larry? How much? I have to pay some, but most of them are, Jerry, he's got the word, the operative word is cheap. Do not totally autonomize exploration. Get out there, taste it, and then turn to telepresence. And then finally, develop storylines. Jim, brilliant presentation. I mean, I never get tired of listening to you. Brilliant storytelling because they connect us to the human history. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm working as fast as I can to bring a mobile system on, get back to what I used to be before the Nautilus. I do not plan to get rid of the Nautilus, but I want a parallel capability where I can move quickly and take advantage of opportunities. We're hoping, hopefully with the Navy. Where's Bill? Bill, where are you? Hi, Bill. How are we doing on that one? Working with the Navy and Admiral Gaudet's and others within the Navy. Where's Frank? Frank, there we are. And be able to bring this system online by 2018. Human story. Working again with the Navy and with NMS, with Jim and Alan, take on Victory at Sea, the iconic shipwrecks that the public really get attached to. Another one that I've fallen in love with, and I'm headed off to Santa Barbara and Montecito this weekend to meet with the leadership of the National Geographic to talk about tracing human history through time. We all know where we started. And the one I'm focusing on is the first humans to enter North America and populate the lower 40, Central America and Africa, and in South America. We thought they were the Clovis Indians, the Clovis spearheads in Clovis, New Mexico. We thought they were the ones 10,000 years ago that brought the humans and the technology to kill the woolly mammoths and everybody 10,000 years ago. But then they started these annoying points on the curve. We started seeing sites that were 15,000 years old, 13,000 years old, 17,000 years old, and we said, how did they get around the glaciers? And we think they came around, where's my little pointer? They came around on the shoreline. They walked the shoreline around the glacier that was blocking them from penetrating from Beringia. Well, let's go to that shoreline. And what is that shoreline? The glacial maximum, right around the time of question, 140 meters of water depth. I went into the literature. God bless Google. Where are you? I Google so much it's ridiculous. My wife gets really ticked at dinner parties. I pull out because I said, well, let's stop fighting. Oops, what happened here? There we go. And I started Googling to find out, has anyone on planet Earth searched for the caves that existed along that ancient shoreline? So let's take Santa Barbara, let's take Anacapa and Santa Cruz Island. On Anacapa and Santa Cruz Island, tiny little pieces of rock in the middle of nowhere, we know of 235 caves above sea level. Duh. How many do we think are there? And particularly, what's really cool about the rise of sea level in time was it had still stands, and those were when the great dams that broke. We had 150,000 cubic kilometers, 130,000 cubic kilometers of ice that melted during this period of time and went back into the sea, and commonly violently. That's why we have flood stories in all cultures, not just Noah. And it was because there were great dams. The Hudson was dammed by the glaciers, and it called Lake Albany. I wrote a paper with Elazar Uchupi, my mentor, on the topography of the New England continental shelf is a floodplain topography, violent events coming out. And those violent events led to sudden rises. So what happened was it quickly put those guys where no one can get to. And so I went into the literature to see if anyone has ever looked for caves at that sea level. Zip. And I thought, that's ridiculous. No one has ever went hunting for caves of the glacial maximum? Below the energy level, below sunlight, no sedimentation, you gotta be kidding. So, starting in July, we're gonna go after it. And we're working with the community of spelunkers. Bill Stone, who's legendary in the field. Kenny Broad, who's nuts. I mean, these guys are nuts. And I said, I'm nuts too, so we get along really well. I wanted to start looking at their technology that they use in the shallow water caves, like DeepX, and merge that technology into an AUV. They can go in and three-dimensionalize those caves. So let's go find them. The beauty of shorelines is that we can see them in our Kongsberg sonar. Shorelines at still stands sit there and they winnow out all the stuff, and you leave nothing but boulders. And so we went into our database, and we saw we could see the shoreline in our database at 140 meters. We want to drive along that and search, because what we're after are the first humans to populate the Western Hemisphere. Which brings me to an interesting subject. Who are those people? And who are they today? Largely the Hispanic community of America. Is anyone in the room Hispanic?
Terry a piece of it. Mostly Castilian, though. Not Native American Hispanic. You're Castilians. Our Hispanics in this country are Native Americans. You want to get their attention? That's their heritage. I was going through the numbers a few minutes ago of 100 people that are here. 80 of you are white guys. You're a minority. Very few. The women count was 20%, and that's thankful for the Ocean Exploration Trust that brought all of my leadership is 75% women. If you really expect to play the game, you better have a Corps of Exploration that looks like the country. Every child needs to see their face in the Corps to know they can play. And I think I've challenged you once before. I want to challenge you again at your next gathering. Get the faces. Get the faces in the game. Because expeditions that caught the attention of the next generation, all of them, if they were composed of faces that looked like them. So that's your challenge. That's what the Corps should look like. Thank you very much for this wonderful honor.
Okay, we have a couple of challenges, so we will all see you next year at the Ocean Exploration Forum in California. I do want to mention as well that this actually is also part of a series that Monmouth University and Rockefeller are working on, so we will be having annual conferences. So we do expect that we will have a conference at Monmouth next year that will focus on issues like this, but not in any way in competition with the Ocean Exploration Forum. And we're currently thinking about something which actually a little bit tips this conference on its head and focuses a little bit more on the communications and engagement side. So how do you use the science? So we're talking a little bit about something that would focus on sights, sounds, and seascapes in the North Atlantic. So we'll try to be really thinking about how we can actually bring this information out to the public in more effective ways. Again, we'll have all of the science behind it. We'll continue to discuss some of the work that's being done, but we really want to emphasize a little bit the side about how do you tell the story a little bit better. So look forward to that workshop with Rockefeller next year, as well as the National Ocean Economic Forum, Exploration Forum. So again, thank you very much, Bob, and thanks everybody else for coming.